in her role. So we talked about how do you shift that mindset. So she shift from he's arrogant to, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, to what's the opportunity here?
Yeah.
Oh, I can really create some value for this team. And so then what's the feeling? Well, the feeling then is engagement. I want to participate. I want to be part of this team. I want to engage. And then the action is driving the results. So the shift from a threat response, he's arrogant, I'm going to disengage, to a more empowering thought. What's the opportunity? There's an opportunity for me to really create value and drive the business. So it's letting go of that unproductive fixed thought.
This is the Workplace Therapist Show, and of course, I am your host, Brandon Smith. And the entire purpose of this show is one singular thing, and that is to help you have better conversations and build better relationships at work. And so our topic today, we are going to take on growth mindset. What does it mean to have a growth mindset? How do we get a growth mindset? And what are some of the behaviors that we can practice and do that will help us maintain that? So to help us on this journey, I have the pleasure of having Beth Egan on the show today. Beth, how are you?
I'm wonderful, Brandon. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so thrilled that you were able to make it. And so you're perfect for this because one of your handles and part of the things you do in the world is you're a growth mindset coach for executives.
Yes, I am.
Well, I'm really thankful that you could come on the show and talk to us a little about what does it mean to have a growth mindset? How can we kind of get there? So I want to dive into that topic. But before we do, I love story time, and I would love to hear a little bit about your story and journey, kind of what got you doing this, and then a little bit about the kind of work that you do.
Well, I would be happy to. And Brandon, I'll tell you, I stumbled onto the Growth Mindset Coach because in my business journey, I spent over 30 years in the business. I spent 21 years at the Coca-Cola Company.
Wow.
Where I led work streams in strategic marketing and in operations and in product innovation. But after about 20 years through my career, I became really passionate about leadership development. And the company gave me an opportunity to move into capability building and leadership development. And I became intrigued by coaching. So I went and got myself certified as a executive coach. So I combined that work experience with the executive coaching credentials. And at about that time, a new CEO came into the company and was shifting cultural transformation. And it was about a growth mindset. And that was my opportunity to use my life skills and my coaching credentials to help the company transform.
Yeah.
And I was thought of as a thought leader, and I had opportunities to work on the Global Transformation Initiative, run growth mindset workshops for the company. And then in 2018, when I was really hitting my stride with this passion, the company offered early retirement.
Yeah.
And I said, Brandon, I'm not ready. And as I thought about it, and we were given a bit of time, I recognized, if not now, when. So I took the leap and I went out into the world as the growth mindset coach for executives. And I'll say the world has embraced me. I have a thriving practice, and I also speak and run workshops and facilitate. And so I'm very fulfilled.
So what was it? I love the balance of having all those years leading and working in the business and now coaching. That's a beautiful balance. What was it that had you shift into leadership development coaching? You said you kind of got intrigued by it. Was there a particular moment or a situation or a person that lit that fire for you?
You know, a great question. Many of the young people coming up, particularly women, would come to me with their struggles because I had lived the working, the raising children, the career. And I became sort of the go-to. And at one point, I took a vacation. I went on a yoga retreat in Hawaii. And the majority of the women at this retreat happened to be professional coaches. And I was so intrigued by their language and their behavior and how they interacted with one another. I said to myself, I want some of that. And I went ahead and took the coaching certification, not knowing what it was I was going to do with it.
Yeah.
And it ended up converging my business skills with my coaching skills to provide this second act career.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Well, let's talk about this second act career, particularly the growth mindset side of that. So maybe a good starting place. What does it mean to have a growth mindset? What is it?
Well, I will tell you that growth mindset was coined by the social psychologist Carol Dweck out of Stanford University. And what Carol found in her research is that people who believe that they can always improve, that they can get better, that their traits can be shifted, it's about a belief in change. Change for the self, for the abilities, for the personality traits, how we show up. Those people were coined as a growth mindset. So on the other hand, then, what is a fixed mindset? A fixed mindset is a belief that your abilities are innate, that they can't be changed, and that you are already the best version of yourself. So what does that result in? So people in the workplace, you'll recognize the fixed mindset person. He's or she is the person sitting in the room who is the smartest one in the room, who has all of the answers, the know-it-all. The growth mindset person is the learn-it-all. The fixed mindset person, because they don't believe they can improve, they are always trying to prove themselves. The growth mindset person, because they are the best at getting better, they are focused on improving. So it's from proving to improving. It is from demonstrating your skills to developing your skills. It is from comparing yourself to others to comparing yourself to yourself yesterday. What did I learn? How can I get better? How do I apply it to be more effective today?
Okay. So is it possible to go from being a fixed mindset person to a growth mindset person?
It absolutely is possible.
That's good news.
It absolutely is possible, and it's a practice. What I'll share with you is there are 4 behaviors. There are 4 behaviors that I see in my practice and that the research has told us are the behaviors that really propel one into a growth mindset and a thought process.
So these are the behaviors that kind of help us shift that way.
That's correct.
Okay,
The
great.
behaviors that help us shift, the behaviors to be cognizant of. And the first is be curious.
I love that word, curiosity. I love curious.
Be curious. Question the status quo. Ask yourself what is. Don't be satisfied with this is a way we've always done it. Ask the questions, be curious, and continue to question and push through to bigger, bolder, braver thinking.
So I want to dig into that one a little bit more. So is it curious about yourself, curious about others, curious about the business, or could it be any of all or all of those?
It's all of those. It's all of those. So it's internal, being curious about what did I just learn? That didn't feel so good. I made a mistake. It didn't feel so good. It's being curious about, so what did I learn? How can I apply that so I don't have to learn that lesson again? So it's being curious about yourself. It's being curious about others.
So you can grow and learn. All right. So this is a tricky question. So I'm going to throw you a curveball. How do we avoid not coming across as judgmental, either of ourselves or others? Because sometimes, I've met those people who are curious, but it's with a judgmental edge to it, right? They're beating themselves up or beating other people up. Mm-hmm. How do we? Is there a way we can kind of avoid that?
The one of the things that I really attach my self to the growth mindset is when you're really practicing it, you let go of judgment. And that is such a relief because judgment is a lot of energy, mental energy,
Heck yeah.
emotional energy
Yeah.
that you're wasting this finite energy that we have on judgment, on validation, on these external sort of things that we really can't control one another's behaviors. And so I coach my clients to shift out of judgment so they can free themselves to really be curious and find the opportunity.
Yeah. So it sounds like they almost have to get comfortable embracing some level of vulnerability to be able to do that well.
Embracing a level of vulnerability, yes.
Yeah.
And also releasing themselves from the mind trap of judging.
Oh, got it.
You know, I had a client this morning who was judging her colleague as being arrogant, and so she disengaged. And then she got the feedback that he said she wasn't present in her business. So we talked about letting go of that judgment and just being curious. What's the opportunity here? And how can I drive the business, letting go of the judgment of his arrogance and any of his behaviors that might be distracting her from really doing what she does so well, which is drive the business.
Yeah. Beautiful. Okay. So curiosity is our first one.
Mm-hmm.
What's number 2?
So number 2 is be empowered.
Okay. Say more about that.
So
What do you mean by that?
empowerment is see it, say it, do it, and own the outcome. Empowerment, Brandon, comes from within. So many of my clients will say, Beth, I'm not empowered to do that. Empowerment comes from within. It's not given to us.
Okay. So say it again. You said see it.
See it, say it, do it.
See it, say it, do it.
And own the outcome.
And then own it.
And own the outcome.
So how is that, if we were in a fixed mindset world, how would we operate differently than that? Would we hold back on all those things? What's the difference?
In a fixed mindset, we would hold back. We wouldn't push forward. In a fixed mindset, we would say that's the way it's always been. So that's the way it is. One of my examples for empowerment, think of women's suffrage. Think of civil rights in this country. Think of systemic racism. People step up, step in, and they demand change. It's not given to us by the leaders.
Okay.
So empowerment is taking the risk when you see it to say it and do it and own the outcome.
Okay, so I love this one. I'm a big fan of that kind of idea of empowerment, that sense of agency. I mean, I think it's beautiful. How do we navigate that when we might live or work in a world where there's politics involved? Do we still push forward anyway? How do we balance some of those challenges?
Well, I define politics at work as how things get done. Knowing and navigating, being able to get results because you know how things get done. And so if we go into an approach, if we approach politics with that mindset and we're authentic.
Yeah, so you're still empowering, you're going, but you're not ignoring the politics, you're working through them to get
You're
the
working
things.
through them, and you're working with them.
Yeah,
and you're navigating in an authentic way.
Okay, that's a nice distinction. So it's not so much empowerment isn't so much like bull in a china shop as much as it is own it, as you see it, say it, do it, and then own the outcome. So you're kind of working through what you've got. All right, so that's our second one. Okay, what's our third one?
Our third one is be agile. Agile. Agile is a mindset. It's about version 1.0. Just get started. It's about test, it's learn, it's experiment, because if you wait till it's perfect, it'll be obsolete. Or someone else will have gotten to it first. So it's about just get started. In the Agile methodology, it's about minimal viable product. What's the minimal viable product that I can produce for my customer that will work? And then I will learn from that customer in a collaborative way how to continue to evolve it 2.0, 3.0, 4.0. So in the Agile growth behavior, it's about testing and learning and experimenting.
So what I'm hearing in that too is you've got to be careful that you're not holding yourself to a standard of perfection, because then either you'll never get started or you'll never launch. You kind of that, hate to use this term, maybe this is not the right term, but almost like a good enough mindset. Like it's got to be good enough to be able to then get some feedback on and continue to iterate.
Yeah, it's progress over perfection. It is, I'll give you an example of a website that I launched when I was at Coca-Cola. And it had certain functionality I had to deliver to the client. But it didn't have fancy search buttons, and it didn't have a certain kind of catalog and categorization. If I had waited, it wouldn't have launched because a lot of other things had happened in the meantime. But by getting out the minimal viable product, I was able to give the client what they needed right away. And then we worked collaboratively on the feedback to keep making it better and better and better.
Is this
it's just get started.
Is this similar to like in the startup world? You'll hear the mantra "fail fast."
It's fail fast.
Okay.
This came out of technology and computer technology world. I'm bringing it into this mindset because if we're going to exhibit growth behaviors, we have to take action and get started and not be afraid to fail. Failure is an opportunity to learn.
Yeah. Okay. So far we've got 3. We've got curiosity, be curious. We've got empowered, feel empowered to kind of take that action. And then we've got kind of that agile thinking, agile learning.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to hit the 4th one, but I want to do it right after we get back from break. So when we come back, I want to hit that 4th one, and then I want to see how we might be able to apply those in some different situations. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, thanks so much for listening to the show. In case you haven't heard, Brandon's got a new book out. He's going to tell you all about it.
Thanks, Emily. So the book is The Hot Sauce Principle, How to Live and Lead in a World Where Everything is Urgent All the Time. And if you're like me, and like most of us, everything does feel urgent all the time. It's like hot sauce is being poured on everything, whether it's our work life, our family life, coming from our clients, coming from our boss. And so the book is a practical guide on how do we manage urgency. Not only how do we set proper boundaries, but how do we properly create urgency when we need to. So I wrote the book for you. I can't wait for you to get a copy.
Thanks, Brandon. Don't forget to check out The Hot Sauce Principle, available now on Amazon.com. Back to the show.
Welcome back from break. Of course, this is the Workplace Therapist Show. And right before break, Beth Egan was taking us through and teaching us all about growth mindset. And so, Beth, we had those 3. We had curiosity, we have empowered, we've got agile thinking, and you said there's a 4th one. What's our 4th one?
Number 4 is be inclusive.
Okay.
Alone we're smart, but together we're genius.
Yes, so that word is used in lots of contexts right now. It's a very powerful word. Tell us a little bit more about how that relates in growth mindset. What are the behaviors?
So the behaviors about being inclusive is to ask others to seek out varying points of view, to even seek out oppositional points of view. But it's to seek out a variety of points of view.
But I like the way I think. I mean, isn't the way we think the right way to think?
Alone we're smart, together we're genius.
That's fair.
So it's about collecting genius. It's about that collective genius. It's about seeking and building upon one another's contributions and thoughts. But it's seeking others' perspectives, especially those who might think differently or have different life experiences than you?
It's interesting. Of the ones that you've listed out, I think we can train ourselves to do all of them well. But this one seems like it would be the one we would, at least from my perspective, have the most resistance to. Because I can be curious. It's really not threatening anything too much. Empowered, I can take that action. I can try and focus on what am I learning. But this idea of now go out and find people who disagree with me, or who might blow up my idea that I'm super excited about, that I'm all empowered to go take action on, seems like this would be the most difficult. I don't know if it is or not, but I'd be curious to your thoughts on how do we kind of make this a habit, because this seems the most uncomfortable.
Yeah. You really can't separate these behaviors because they're all integrated. Curiosity is integrated very much in that inclusive, because inclusive is about asking questions, not being the know-it-all, not being the tell-it-all, not being the smartest guy in the room. Being inclusive is to ask, Brandon, what is it about this product that you think is going to really resonate with our customers? Brandon, what would you have done differently? So being inclusive, I always ask for feedback, and being inclusive can be part of the feedback. What did I do well? How could I make it even better? In taking the feedback, whether it's relevant to apply or not is your choice, but it's about asking for the feedback. It's about asking for the perspective. It's about asking for the point of view so we can build that collective genius.
Yeah, and as you're going through this, while we think about growth mindset, and we call it a mindset, those behaviors are so relational and conversational. Because it's really about bringing in other people and doing things together, as you said. So, all right, so we've got these now 4 powerful points. We've got curiosity, we've got empowered, agile, and we've got this inclusive kind of mindset. How do we shift our actions, behaviors, thinking to kind of go down these paths?
Well, I use the effective change model. It's behavioral psychology. It's something that we're taught in coaching. It's something I'm sure that you use in your practice as well. I'll explain what I mean by the effective change model and how I use it in growth mindset.
Please. Wonderful.
So the effective change model has really 3 components. The theory is that your thoughts impact how you feel, which then impacts how you act. So if you shift the thought from the fixed to the growth, then you impact how you react and how you act. I had a client who said a wonderful analogy. She said, "Oh, Beth, it's like when you're snowboarding, you lean into the hill and then your body follows." and I said, "Yeah, it's you shift the thought and your body follows. You shift the thought and your feelings and your actions follow." Let me give you an example.
Yeah, I would love one.
So I was with the client this morning. And so, first, I'll tell you the model is about shifting from a threat or a fixed mindset to an opportunity. And so in my example with my client this morning, her boss was arrogant. And so when he was arrogant, her thought was, he's arrogant. And then her feeling was, I don't respect him. Core to her values. She lost respect for him. And then her action was apathy. She avoided contact. Well, that didn't serve her in her role. So we talked about how do you shift that mindset. So she shift from he's arrogant to, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, to what's the opportunity here?
Yeah.
Oh, I can really create some value for this team. And so then what's the feeling? Well, the feeling then is engagement. I want to participate. I want to be part of this team. I want to engage. And then the action is driving the results. So the shift from a threat response, he's arrogant, I'm going to disengage, to a more empowering thought. What's the opportunity? There's an opportunity for me to really create value and drive the business. So it's letting go of that unproductive fixed thought.
Yeah, it's interesting as you're talking about that. It feels to me like when we're in that fixed mindset place, we don't like vulnerability. We've kind of got all our guard up, and we're more resistant to new things and more on the alert for threats. Whereas it feels like when we're on more of a growth mindset, we're open to new things, we're willing to be vulnerable, and we're looking for opportunities. And we're having at least more of a positive outlook in what might work. Is that a fair summary?
And it goes back to that fight or flight. In the fixed mindset, we see often others' behaviors or situations as a threat. And so we then get into fight or flight mode. We're going to be critical, or we're going to be defensive, or we're going to be the victim.
Yep.
When we shift to growth mindset, then that's a more empowering mindset, because then we seek the opportunity. You take all that energy you put into being defensive and put that into seeing the opportunity.
Okay, so I think here's probably the $1 million question, maybe even $1 billion question. So here we are in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's going to push us down one of these paths, right? So I can easily see why people would fall into the fixed mindset trap. Like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose my job. Oh my gosh, horrible things are going to happen. Oh my gosh, I can't leave the house. Then there's a growth mindset, which is how we might look at this differently. So how might you guide us on how we kind of apply a growth mindset to this world of uncertainty that we find ourselves in right now?
That's such a great question, because I see that every day, and I've had the opportunity to guide my clients through this over the last 6 months. And initially, this uncertainty and this disruption, we were living in the moment and just surviving and just figuring out what is it that I need to do to ensure that my family, that my team, that myself, that we're healthy, that we are thriving, that we are going to be okay.
Yeah.
And as the uncertainty starts to lift, it is still a lot of uncertainty, but there's a certain normalcy almost to that uncertainty. And that's when I see my clients starting to shift into, okay, so I have to now start thinking more long term and thinking about the strategy and thinking about how we're going to, what this new business looks like, and then adapting and being resilient. And it's those who are resilient, and resiliency is one of the powerful outcomes of a growth mindset, because it's sitting in a fixed mindset creates resistance, and living with the possibilities in a growth mindset is one of the foundations of resilience. And so with that resilience, we can continue to move forward and really in that uncertainty and survive and even thrive.
Yeah. So it sounds like, and I love the way you put that, the resilience is kind of the byproduct or the outcome of that. We become more resilient. And it sounds like if we really wear our growth mindset lenses, there's a lot we could be learning right now. We could be learning how we interact differently with each other, how we do work virtually, how we can do virtual team meetings better. We can also be thinking about where we do work, but we can also be thinking about strategy. So if this is a new normal for a period of time, how does that change how we should operate? What should our business look like? Who should our customers be? So it sounds like we can, there's a lot of things we can be trying to learn right now. Is that fair?
That is fair. And one build on that is, I'm hearing from many of my clients, what's working in this work from home situation is For some of them, it's a little more life balance, work-life balance, because they're not traveling and they're not in meetings 10 hours a day. So they have more time to think strategically, and they have more time to take care of themselves and take a walk and be with the kids. And so the conversations are, oh, I'm living a different way and it's giving me more time for things that matter to me. How do I bring that back when we go back to the office? How do I maintain that? How do we keep that? We don't want to lose that. So yes. So what are we learning and what is it that we want to carry forward?
Beautiful. So, Beth, I ask all my guests this question as we get towards the end here. Is there a particular life hack you might have for us on how we can have either better conversations or build healthier relationships, either at home or at work?
Well, Brandon, I would say yes. I would say consciously focus on shifting from a fixed to a growth mindset. Constantly focus on shifting from that threat response, the victim, the defensive, to a more empowering response by asking yourself the question, what's the opportunity in this challenge?
Yeah.
And I would then say, practice that shift for 21 days. The research shows 21 days makes a habit. And it's about a belief that you can change your behavior. And then the practice to create a new habit, to shift.
Nice.
From limiting to a more empowering mindsets.
Yeah, and I think even as it relates to conversations and relationships, I think it'd be difficult to have a really healthy relationship if you have the victim or defensive hats on. Those are not the makings of very healthy relationships. So I love that kind of applying it in that context too. That's great. Well, if people want to learn more about you, more about the work you do, where can they go?
Well, Brandon, I'm the founder of Coaching Energy, and my website is coachingenergy.net.
Okay.
And they can look for me on social media, LinkedIn. I'm Beth Egan. And they can connect with me, BETH,
Yep.
EGAN.
Great. Nice. Fantastic. Well, Beth, thank you for coming on the show today. Really, really enjoyed it. Enjoyed kind of your thoughts around growth mindset. I've already picked up a few things I could probably start to work on a little bit tomorrow. And thank you all for listening and watching the show. Of course, continue to rate, review, and subscribe. That's how we grow our tribe, get more people to learn about the good work that we're doing and the messages we're trying to put out in the world. And if you haven't gotten a chance to pick up a copy of my newest book, The Hot Sauce Principle, please do. I wrote it for you. It's all about how you can live and lead more effectively in this world today where everything is so darn urgent all the time. So until our next show, have a great week and an awesome life.